I've tried to explain to Rhett, like, the life lessons he's learning in 4-H, and having to do something every day, like how many people work with people, or I try to hire people almost every week. And it's like some of these skill set of just like be consistent. Like literally, I think I woke Red up 3 times since August to go out and feed his calf.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I had to tell him to like make him go do it. It was just he slept in. I'm like, hey, bud.
And I think that like it's really interesting. I was not a 10-year 4-H member. I didn't start 4-H till 8th grade. And just the impact, like, I didn't do 10 years. I only did, 5? And I felt like, close to 5. And I felt like it's crazy. Like, it put that much passion in me that I'm like, okay, well, I want to do it. I want my kid to do it. And I want to be involved still.
Welcome to this edition of the Whole Truth Podcast. Today, my special guest is Kate, and we got the honor to meet Kate when we had the opportunity. We're going to kind of theme this on some community impact that we've gotten the honor to do in the last year. And the Rush County Horse and Pony Club had reached out to us to see if we could help them out. So absolutely, we took that opportunity. So we just wanted to get Kate in here, kind of chat about the Horse and Pony Club, what that means, because one thing it is away from the regular fairgrounds, during fair week. So I know that they sometimes don't get, the spotlight or the attention the other fair kiddos get, and just kind of like what that organization means, what it looks like to be part of that club. And you can take a second and introduce yourself and tell us about your family.
So my name's Kate Lyden, and I have lived in Rush County now since December of 2021. And I am married to my husband, Matt, and we have a daughter named Madeline. She's just now getting ready to do Clover Buds this year, so that's really exciting. But I knew before she was old enough to do Clover Buds that I wanted to be part of the community, because I knew 4-H was big growing up for me, so I wanted her to be part of that. And we just, my husband and I actually are both Clover Bud leaders, but unfortunately due to his job, he's not able to come to all the meetings as much as I am. And so, yeah, I've been part of Horse and Pony now for 3 years, actually been a leader for 3 years. And then we are located out by the highway department. It's very close over there, and it's like right behind it. And our fair days are the 2 days before the fair starts. So we do get a little outshined by other, projects, but it's just as important to, the kids that do that as their only project.
So how many kids are involved in the Horse and Pony?
So we have 17, which ranges from kindergarten through 12th grade. And then every once in a while, last year we only had 15. So we are growing, so that's exciting. But it's very intense project. It's not like one that you get from in January and then you give it back, or you sell it at the fair. You have to keep it the whole year. And it's even actually better when you have a bond with it, so it your work performs a little better for you. So.
Yeah, my son's doing cattle this year, and I may have said, man, lambs or pigs would have been a whole hell of a lot easier.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Getting a calf in August and showing it, in July. But anyways, what is, kind of tell your story, because it's kind of unique how you and Matt landed here in Rush County. I've gotten a chance to know you through Dave Ramsey's Principles FPU class and stuff like that. So I kind of know the story, but to me it's kind of neat because I'm not a Rush County born guy, been here long enough that I kind of feel like I'm grandfathered in, but it's still kind of cool how people end up, up where they end up at. Yeah,
so I'm definitely a transplant for sure. I originally am from Indiana, so I lived in Whiteland my whole life, and like Franklin area. Most people don't know Whiteland, but they know Franklin. And I was going to join the Army, and I was a little too pudgy for that, so I joined the Navy instead.
I'm sorry, I'm not politically correct. Sometimes I laugh and I shouldn't.
No, it's fine. And so I joined the Navy, and I joined the Navy when I was 23, and I went out I got stationed out of Virginia because they ran out of female berthings on the aircraft carrier. So it's just interesting. Matt, my husband, he had just gotten, he was in the Navy as well, and he had just gotten to the command we were at. And he and I don't know, I just because we were both from the Midwest, because he's originally from Ohio, and we just headed off, and we ended up moved to Maryland because he got out before I did, and then we moved to Maryland because I was still in, and we had Madeline, and my grandparents came out, and they just looked real old, and it was really sad. And I was like, Matt, we need to move back. And he was like, well, where do you want to move? And I'm like, not by your family. So
hopefully Matt's family doesn't watch this.
No, we knew we didn't want to live that close. And so then we moved. We actually looked at a house in Newcastle, and that house, when we were buying our house, we were using our GI Bill, or the GI VA loan, and they have certain criterias in the house. And we drove 12 hours to look this one house, and our realtor's like, you drove 12 hours? And we're like, yeah, this is the house you want. And she's like, it's not going to check any of the VA loan boxes. So we're like, okay. So we went back to the hotel, and then finally she's like, hey, there's a house in Rushville. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we went, actually, we put the address in wrong, and we started off on the north side of town. We drove through all the way, and it was like right before the Christmas parade, so we saw all of the cute little lights and stuff, and it reminded Matt a lot of where he's from in Ohio. And then we get to our house, and we're like, oh, we love it. And 3 other people put an offer in that day, so we had a fight for our house. And anyway, so we ended up in Rushville, and it's really funny. We were middle between his family in Ohio and my family that lived in Paoli, which is down in like French Lick area. Mm-hmm. And like 6 months after we moved to Rushville, my mom and dad moved to Greensburg. So nice. It's really funny. So we see them pretty frequently now. So it's really nice to be back in Indiana. And I think Matt is slowly learning to be a Hoosier, but he'll always root for the Buckeyes. That's for sure.
That's good. I'm proud of that comment. So
no, but it is really nice that it's to be back local and be, I can always go over and see, like my sisters live in Greenwood now, so we can pop over there. And like I said earlier, like my grandparents live in Putnam County, so it's really nice to like still be close. And but it's also like, I think one of the things is like Matt feels very much like his home is in Rushville now too, which before like he had lived away from his family for so long that it's nice that he kind of feels like the camaraderie, or not really camaraderie, community feeling that we've gotten some from Rushville. But being that, when you go somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm Kate Lyden, and they're like, oh, who are you related to? And you say no one, they're just blown away by that. Like, oh, how are you not related to anyone? So I think that's really like kind of fun.
Because we're getting some new blood.
Yeah, they're like, okay. Like, how'd you get here? And then you have to tell them the whole story. At least I do. And
well, and and I remember, you kind of hit on something there when you're like did you say you seen your parents?
Yeah, my grandparents came out to visit. Your
grandparents were old. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we moved to Nashville for me to work for Dave Ramsey. And I remember like when my dad came down, I was like, holy shit, I think he's aged 5 years in literally 2 or 3 months. Like literally that's all it had been.
Yeah. And
to me, it was end up just being that he was having foot problems that day, but still like it kind of dawned on me like, and that was, that was the reason we moved back so quick. It
is sad. And like, maybe it's just because we hadn't seen him in a while, and then like they had some same health issues, and it was just really, I'm like, wow, I don't want to miss it. I grew up next, like we literally were at Grandma and Grandpa's house every weekend, or maybe even a couple times through the week, and I wanted to make sure Malin had that as well. So as much as I say, oh man, my parents are so close, but I do love it. Like, if you need something, they're always there. So it's really nice.
Yeah, and I mean, and what, and the small community, though, like, just to have that, the Midwest, like, some people they don't understand that, and, it is genuinely nice, especially after you've been here 20 years, like I said, like, you kind of feel like you're, grandfathered in,
when we lived in Maryland, we did have a little bit of community, but it's just mostly the people that had gotten out of the Navy about the same time we had. And so like we knew each other. That was really the only like we'll say our distance family, we made them our family. But now like being able to know that this is our house, we're not moving again, like knock on wood. We've moved a couple times. But like to be able to have friends that like we've had now for almost 5 years, like it's nice to like, hey, you guys want to go do something? Or like their kids are very close to similar to Madeline's age, and like having that like they all go to school together, like that's really nice. I feel like that was something I enjoyed, like living where I lived growing up, and like Matt had the same thing. Like he went to school with all those kids for 12 years and sometimes 13. And and it's really nice that like they were able to do, like, we have that now here in Rushville.
So what is your responsibility? Like you're a club leader for the Horse and Pony then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm one of three. So we have three. There's myself, Ashley Rapp, and Amanda Davis. And so I do the Facebook page. I do all of the billing. It's the worst part of it, I think. Or like making sure we have the funds and stuff there. And then Ashley does all of the paperwork side. Like she makes sure we have all the documents and stuff we need, and then Amanda does the half pints, which is like kindergarten through second graders. So it actually works out really well to divide and conquer, because it's a lot for if one person had to do it. And then for Clover Buds, myself and Kaylee Marlatt are the other leader, and Matt sometimes. So we do like the activities, and we try to expose those kids, to the younger kids, the kindergarten through second graders, to what 4-H is and like the different projects you can do. Because a lot of people think that when you think of 4-H, you think of animals, but 4-H has a variety of different things, like everything from Lego sets all the way up to like you can do baking to, you know, even like a poster if you didn't really want to, right. You know, so there's a lot you can do.
What does the Clover Buds look like? And I mean, this is pretty bad. I'm asking this question with I'm just not even prepping the question. Like, I don't even know. I've got 2 Clover Bud kids, I guess, technically. What does that look like? Because, you know, 4-H numbers have been down, unfortunately. And, you know, like, so how do we get more kids involved? You know, what does the Clover Buds, you know, look like? Before you take over, my kids are going to each show a calf in the, they call it the runt class in the pig show, but so they're each going to have, they're working. Reagan's already, she's not in 4-H, she's already showed. She's gonna correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she showed at 2 shows already, and plans on showing some more this summer. So
so if the biggest thing is if for the cattle, I don't show cattle personally right now. I know Malin, that's on her bucket list, so we might not go high end, but we'll get there. But for Clover Bud kids, they you can either bring your own animal that you've been working with, but you have to make sure you talk to the extension office over in the courthouse and get your RFID tag. Mm-hmm. And that's the same with swine if you're doing it that way. Mm-hmm. And then the biggest thing is you have to have an adult assist you.
Yes.
I know a lot of kids are like, I work with them at home with no help, but that's our big safety thing. Correct. Just because there's a lot of different, there's a lot more moving parts when you come to the fair. Like everybody's out there, not just, what we've been working with at home. And so that's the same. They will have to sign a waiver, but that's just a minor detail. And then when they have to be enrolled on 4-H online. So, and then we ask that they come to a Clover Bud meeting, which is on the second Tuesday of the month. But that's not a hard, line in the sand. But most of the time, the kids, most of them have older siblings, so that you kind of have an idea of what you're doing already. But they can either reach out to me on Facebook and I can walk them through it, or the extension office is a great resource as well. Those ladies over there are like their best things.
So as long as you don't tell my daughters that about horses, maybe I'll bring them to a Clover Bud meeting.
Well, the thing of it is for horses too, you can always lease one, so you don't have to be the financial commitment. So, just saying. So it's crazy. It's funny though. My daughters have went to every 4-H meeting with Rhett besides the first one. Like, that's awesome.
They came home and they found out there was refreshments. And then they're like, we have a 4-H meeting tonight. I was like, no, your brother has his 4-H meeting tonight. And it's funny because they love it. They want to go. And then Ritburgers live right up the road. We're in the same 4-H club. There's a couple of them that's younger, so they go too. So it's funny just because, like I said, like my kids they were all about it. I was just like, man, I dreaded, like, it was like, oh, I got to go to this freaking meeting, I say, like, I have loved, that's like my favorite part of being a leader is that I have 2 seniors this year, and I've known them now. They were my first kids that I really got, like, they were like, oh, hi, Kate, like, the introduction. So like, it's like a little tear in my heart because, like, those kids, like, I've seen them grow, and, like, that's the best part, I feel like, of 4-H. Like, you see them improve every year, like, their interest changes and stuff like, and even, like, it's one thing you see your own kid do it, but then to see
like your kid interacting with the other kids, like, I don't know, that's just the best part. And like they become like your extended family because you see them all the time, like you said, and you're like, oh, how's things doing? And like you can see when they're down, you see when they win, like, I'm gonna cry.
Well, and like even this weekend, I went and helped a buddy. He needed to give a couple of a cow and a heifer a shot just to have them cycle so he could get them bred, and like he was like trying to pay me for it. I'm like, no, we're buddies. We help each other out. But it's just to hear the kids, just to hear Kaylee like talk to me about her calf, and it's all, I love asking them like, what's its name, because it's all over the board.
They have some,
and then it's always a cool story. Like my son had a steer named Black Smoke because diesel trucks pour out black smoke. So
it's good logic.
And I won't say the word that my kids want to name their next one for next year on this podcast. It may be shadow banned with the world we live in. But anyways, no, I mean, honestly, like, no, you're right. It's fun to see the excitement. And, I've tried to explain to Rhett, like, the life lessons he's learning in 4-H, and having to do something every day. Like how many people work with people, or I try to hire people almost every week. And it's like some of these skill set of just like be consistent. Like, literally, I think I woke Red up 3 times since August to go out and feed his calf.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I had to tell him to like make him go do it. It was just he slept in. I'm like, hey, bud.
And I think that like it's really interesting. I was not a 10-year 4-H member. I didn't start 4-H till 8th grade. And just the impact, like I didn't do 10 years. I only did 5? And I felt like, close to 5. And I felt like it's crazy. Like it put that much passion in me that I'm like, okay, well, I want to do it. I want my kid to do it, and I want to be involved still. And like getting up early, like it didn't faze me at all. Like you were saying, like it's very, it's your drive.
You could have got 6 years in if it had taken 13 years of school.
I know. Next time.
What are some things that the Horse and Pony Club that you guys are involved in? I know earlier you were mentioning some things before we went live.
So we, last year, we were really fortunate enough to go and help the United Way do their fundraiser. They did a bicycle race. It's the 5 bridges, and we were able to be a water stop for that. And that was us in Changing Footsteps. We partnered together, and that was really nice. We've done the diaper packing out, I think it's the Milroy food pantry. So that was really nice to be able to help that. And there was another one we've done. I can't remember right now, but look at my notes.
You look at your notes. It's all right. It's not that formal.
Yeah. Okay. And then we've also had a lot of help from the Rush County Community Foundation. So I had never written a grant before, and Ashley and I sat down and we kind of figured out how to do that. And so we had a lot of help from the Rush County Community Foundation. They actually granted us a award of we got new bleachers, so those are going to be out there this year, so that'll be really exciting. We haven't put them together yet, but there's some great dads in our club, so they'll be putting those together soon. But there was so we also, I know last year we did fundraising for the roof, and I know that's where you stepped in and you were like, hey, how close are you to your goal? And we knew we weren't anywhere close from just by selling pulled pork sandwiches and doing the couple of open shows that we had. But I know last year you helped us out a lot with that. So that we have a banner out front for you this year.
Thank you.
So other than that, we have done quite a few things, and it may there's kids that do they volunteer at the Brooks Equine, and they do sidewalkers for the kids that need help staying on the horses. So they do that as a kind of like a physical therapy and a speech therapy. So that's one thing that I think is really interesting. Horses have a lot of different avenues that they can take as far as how they some people from a veteran's point of view, you can you see a lot of veterans that do equine therapy and that kind of thing, and even just being I have horses at home, and you just go out there, and it's just your whole day lifts off of you when you're out there. I mean, it's very similar when you're on any animal, but I feel horses for sure they're just sometimes they're crazy, other times you're man, I really love you, other times you're man, you could go up the road, I wouldn't mind. So, but the bad thing is like, I feel like, so when I did 4-H, I showed cows and goats, and if you got mad, you know, you can eat them, but horses, you can't do that. Most people, it's frowned upon here.
They frown upon that,
They frown
I think,
upon
you know.
For sure.
I mean, my wife is bad at, you know, if we meet somewhere, she's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was horse. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's
It
allowed.
is crazy.
And
Like when
she's
you go from having like farm fresh cattle, like, you know, steaks, and you're like, or even ground beef, you can tell a huge difference. Even like when you cook it down, like say you go to like a chain store, and then you're like, oh, well, you can't, you know, you can definitely tell, or it cooks differently, and it like, what used to be a pound is now like a quarter. Like, I don't know. It's super different.
No, that's funny, because like that's one thing that I've tried to teach my kids. Like, we have to sell a cow tonight that we bought that was supposed to be bred to have a baby, and she hadn't had a baby, and didn't have a real solid like pregnancy date on her. And then I was talking to Buddy the other day, and he's like, how long are you going to keep her before you see if she's pregnant? Well, she's not pregnant. She's an older cow. And I mean, my little Reagan like started bawling. I started tearing her up, like consoling her. I was like, sweetie, I love you. She's an older cow. I was like, this is what we have to do. Like, you know, and I just told her, I'm like, you're going to learn a lot of lessons here. And I said, you tell me if you want her to leave during the middle of the day, she'll leave during the middle of the day, and you'll come home and she'll be gone. She's like, no, I want to take one last picture with her tonight. Because I mean, Reagan would go out in the field, and I'm not exaggerating, once or twice a day, and give this freaking cow a hug. And she would be like, hey, Dad,
it's so lovable.
You should text Michelle, the lady that used to own her, and let her know I hugged Ariel today. And I'm like, Reagan, I can't text her 3 times a day. Reagan's hugging Ariel, you know.
But it's like, it is tough. That's, I feel like, the hardest part. Like, so, like I said, we had goats we've had them since I was our first animal we got during COVID. That was our gateway animal. And,
gateway animal.
And we had the goats, and they moved in with us, and they moved across the country with us, and we actually just rehomed them. And Madeline was like, but Mom, they were home at our house. And I was like, but you know, so it is tough, like for your kids to have to explain, like, you know, we'll get another one. Like,
That's okay.
But it is tough. And like, especially, I feel like maybe for beef cattle would be a little challenging because you're going to eat it. But then I will say, like when I showed cows, one of them drug my dad around after he had a knee replacement, and we took a picture of it and put it on the dinner table with it while we were eating the beef. And it made it a lot better. So, dark sense of humor, but that's what we did.
And my boy is kind of boy, and you know, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna eat that one, and I'm like, stop it. And then his one show heifer he freaking adores, and I said, we're not gonna breed Maggie, we're gonna eat her. And he's like, no, we're not. So like, but yeah,
since you have 3, do you have one that's in the middle that's like, this is a circle of life, it's okay, where like you have one that's like, no, we can't, the other
fortunately I think they all understand that God created them to eat them. But my youngest one, Riley, is a female version of me, and I'm kind of worried, if I'm being honest, because she is a spitfire. Like, she walked up to one of the sales guys the other day and was like, why aren't you working more? I mean, she literally sat down beside him right in that conference room, just flopped down right beside him and looked at him and was like, you should be working more.
Yeah.
I'm like,
but I feel like maybe it's coming from a kid, they're like, oh, you know, kids, they're harsh. They're honest.
Well, everybody around here knows my kids are, you know, but it's also funny from the kids' perspective, like, you know, the kids were talking about going to Mahoney Valley church camp, and they know Adam spends a week out there every summer volunteering out there. So like, they're like, we're going to ask Adam. They had a list of questions to ask Adam. So like, that's also fun. Like, our kids are so involved in here, you know. Some days I'm like, get out of the office so these people can get something done. I pay them to work, not to answer your questions.
But it's good that like Madeline's very similar. Like, she's like very similar to me, like doesn't know a stranger. But then you look back and you're like, man, maybe I should teach her like stranger danger. Like, you know, where instead she's like, oh, hey, how are you? Like, you know, she'll come up or, you know, when we were doing financial peace here, like she was, you know, just beating the crap out of you.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I was like, I didn't teach her that. Like I don't know. It is interesting, like how kids they do their own thing. Like
yeah, but a lot of that does have to do with like when they see their parents out, if it's running the business or if it's doing 4-H, if it's leading, like, you know, I always say that's probably one of the most important things my kids have probably learned from us running the business and them being so involved is just to be able to talk to people.
Yeah,
and, like it's in the grand scheme of things, and like I said, once again, like them seeing us get out of our comfort zone, them seeing us give back, like they're going to naturally grow up and want to do that kind of stuff. Like, and you were saying earlier about 4-H and, the older kids helping the younger kids. Like my son's already had a couple people help him in his short, 4-H career here so far. And he's already talking about a friend of ours, little boy, that's probably 4. He's like, I can't wait to teach Dawson what I know about showing calves when he gets older.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I've preached to him. I'm like, try to teach him like, hey, Crosby Jackman, him and Jenna just got married. Like, I worked for Dr. Rob. Emily worked for Dr. Rob. Like I've been a client of that family for 30 years since we moved over here, but it's, we got to support Crosby in 4-H. And then now it's kind of cool that, Crosby was nice enough, came and fitted his heifer last fall at a show. Him and Courtney came out and helped just show him how to wash and tricks and that. So like that is the fun part of 4-H is, and then, once you're involved in it, it's like, it is.
I don't think that I'll ever not be a part of 4-H.
Right.
You can't see it. Like, it's just so rewarding.
Right.
Like, even, I know we had the previous leaders before they retired, they'd been in for 26 years. And you're like, I can see why. It's very rewarding. And, a lot of times it's just one of those things that you just keep doing it because it's like a routine almost. So, but when you were talking about, you hope your kids see what you're doing. I think that's great, and I feel like I try really hard not to like let Madeline have like a lot of not to say a lot of screen time or anything, but as she's sitting in there with the tablet, but. But what I'm saying is, like, I think that a lot of times, like, social media and stuff hinders kids. They're so used to texting their friends or instead of, giving up to give a presentation or to give, like, we have to do demonstrations as part of our project. You have to give one demonstration. We prefer it to be on a horse-related or horse industry-related topic, just to have that familiarity to get up and talk to people. Because that's it's a fading art almost at this point. It's like, it really is. And I think...
Go interview people. I mean, seriously.
I couldn't imagine, like, and like, I work remote from home, and it's like I used to be in the office, but now like you kind of also like being remote, you lose out on that, like, where you're around people and just, are you allowed to say bullshit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you already said it.
Like, so you lose that like kind of camaraderie between you and your work people because you don't get to just talk to them, side conversations here and there. But like, I think that's one reason, like, I did get so involved when we first moved here is because like I work from home. I get kind of lonely. So I need that like interaction. So I enjoy talking to anybody. Like, but I mean, there's a lady at the bank and I feel like she's like, oh, you're here again. Like,
she's like, oh, break time.
Break time.
Sorry. I'm going to lunch early.
I don't intentionally do that, but it's just, you're like, oh, a person.
Well, especially when you're a mom, and at that time when you have a young kid, like, like I'll never forget, like when I used to come home and Emily, when she had a baby, and that one time she had pretty much 2 toddlers and a baby, and then sometimes she's just like, I just want to have a normal conversation, and I'm like, no, I get it.
It is so true. So, yeah, it is so true. So
yeah, but no, like I said, like I mean, 4-H. 4-H did so much for me. 4-H and FFA, like I really contribute to a lot of just the development, and like, you say like, when you say 4-H pledges, FFA creeds and stuff like that, like if you like read, and I mean, you read them and you like say them as a kid, but then when you revisit some of that stuff as an adult, you're like, holy cow, like, it's just, it's really cool just to see, like, to me, it's always cool to see like highly successful people and they're like, oh yeah, I did FFA. Mm-hmm. Like there's a guy that, is really big in the commercial roofing space, known nationwide. And one time I posted a picture of my son with his 4-H calf, and he's like, some of the best lessons he'll ever learn. I contribute a lot of my success And I was like, holy cow,
Yeah.
like that's, I don't know, that's kind of cool to hear. And, and my kid will never understand how much money, our kids will never stand for a long time, how much money we spend on trying to teach them these life lessons.
So we got some bucket calves like 2 years ago, and we were like, oh, we're just gonna have them. I don't know why we didn't eat them yet, but growing up, my dad, shout out to my dad, he paid for everything. And now, like, whenever we're starting to put these calves on crep feed, I was like, man, this is expensive. And my dad's like, think about how much it was when you did 4-H. And now, so I'm like, man, I didn't ever appreciate that. And then at the end of the year, you get your auction check. And I was like, thanks, Dad. And he's like, nope. But it's funny, like, you just, like, look now, I'm like, man, my dad, he sacrificed a lot for me to be able to show cows. And, like, when I was growing up in Whiteland, we lived, like, in the city limits, so my cows were at my uncle's house, and I had to ride my bike out there. And so I felt like I really wanted to show cows, since I had to ride my bike the whole 2.6 miles out there. But it's just crazy, the things that, like, impact you. Like, that impressions you, like, that's not the word, but like, it really does, like, or the people that I've met, like, I've reached out to them for, like, hey, you guys still show, she has goats. And I was like, hey, you guys still show goats? I have a kid over here that's looking for a goat. So it's really nice, the connections and, like, the networking you get from being, I did FFA, but I didn't do that as much as I did 4-H.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very rewarding, and it's nice to know, like, it's almost like its own little community, like,
right.
It's kind of like a bonding thing. Like, you go anywhere and you're like, oh yeah, we do 4-H in this place, and they're like, oh yeah, we do that. And it's a great way to, like, also, like, what works for one club may not work for the other club, so that's another thing that we've learned, so that's really what I find most rewarding. And the people, like, I've met, like, wonderful people through 4-H. So I would say that I wish it wouldn't. I say this in two parts. One, I wish it wasn't so competitive, like, because I feel like this year at the fair there's going to be a lot of great cows, or beef cattle and dairy cows. But at the same time, like, I wish it could go back to the original part where a homegrown mom and dad calf could win just as well as a expensive calf. But that's me not wanting to get into cows. I say that about horse. You want to go buy a nice horse? Like, we'll go buy
see the competitiveness in me. I just had a conversation with Rhett last night. I was like, we're here to have fun.
Yeah.
But I've spent enough money. We're here to win something too,
yeah,
kid.
Exactly.
So.
But at the same time, I do want them to know, like, it's not about the banners. It's not about the buckles. Like, it's about everything else that goes into it. I feel like everybody should... That's the sole purpose you're doing. Not sole, because everybody wants to win. But
well, it's funny because my 3 kids, you have Rhett, Reagan, and Riley. Reagan doesn't care. It could be the ugliest, worst calf in the world. It could be the ugliest.
Is that the one that gives hugs?
In my eyes, let me rephrase that. But if it's cute in her eyes, like, I got to breed a little. I gotta poke a little competitiveness into that girl, because now my youngest one, I'm gonna tell you, like, that girl's not gonna take no for an answer. And I've already been warned that a couple of people think she'll be the best showman out of any of my kids. And I don't want to speak badly. I don't want to speak down on my other kids, but, like, Rhett is not. He's not fierce enough when he walks into the ring, and a couple judges have mentioned that.
But I feel like that comes. He's still new.
I've been coaching him a little bit, like, go in there with that I'm here to win mentality, especially in showmanship,
Yeah.
But little Riley, like, and honestly, I tell him he's kind of SOL, because if you watch any of these shows, it's always girls that win showmanship. Like, it's never a boy. So I don't know if the boys aren't doing showmanship as much, or if it's just really hard to compete, like, a little girl with little pink, her little pink shirt on, and, like,
Well, get him a light red colored shirt. We won't call it. I will say, though, that a lot of kids, like, I hope that this is the biggest thing that we're pushing this year at the fair, is that if you mess up on your pattern, I know they do patterns in horses, but they don't really, when you walk in, act like you never messed up. Just keep going. Like, don't dwell on it. Just keep going. Like, because they may not even have saw it. Like, the judge, that's the biggest thing, is, like, it's all right. Just keep rolling. Like, so, but that's funny, though, that your kids are so, like, they're so opposite in how they are. Like, one's real competitive, and you got a middle ground one. But
really, honestly, though, they're all 3 very interested in it. Like, the littlest one used to get away with not going out to help feed in the morning. I said, Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I was like, I know you're my princess, but I was like, get your ass out of bed, kids. So, but I mean, they genuinely like, you know, they're excited, and you know, like you said, like I mean, it was exciting last weekend going down to the Rip Burgers and just the kids talking, and then coming home and telling mom about their calf's this, and you know, it's this color, and this is the name, and like, you know, like I said, for 4-H, and it's so good for the development. So
did you guys go to open shows too then? Yeah.
We've done some, yes. We haven't done any this year technically. I was trying to get these heifers bred. Mm-hmm. The one is, knock on wood, hopefully the second one takes. You know, so, but yeah, we went to 3. Technically, my son showed 5 different shows last fall.
That's exciting, yeah. It's a different experience too, like going to those open shows versus like your just county fair. You know what I mean? I feel like even if you can't go to show, like going just to watch is a great, because then you know, it goes back to networking and meeting new people. Like you might not know you need that person right now, but they might, you know, later down the road, they'll be a great asset to you. So I feel like that's the big thing about, I like just go and watch and just see how things are done outside of Rush County too. I think that's a big thing. Not being from Rush County, like knowing that there's more than just what's at the county lines. Like I think that's a really important thing for people to learn too, is that, you know, just because you do it this way here doesn't mean it's not necessarily the right way, but the only way. So. Well,
I made the mistake of, hey, Rhett, do you think you want to show Cass? Yeah, Dad. So I took him to the fair last year.
Yeah.
So.
And then he was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But then, you know, that's very competitive.
Yeah. But he's, like I said, he studies though, like he's very knowledgeable. Like he studies what bulls what. He even knows a lot of the bulls who owns
like the
freaking
genetic
bulls.
side of things, which is very like that's where the world's going. Like AI is now like the new, like you don't need to just breed to the, you know, neighbor's cow. You can breed anywhere. Like,
well, the crazy thing is the embryos. I mean, that's AI is kind of dying. Artificial inseminating, by the way, not artificial intelligence. You know, but really in the show world, AI is dying more, and it's more just embryos because they can flush them cows and get 20, 25 eggs every time they flush them.
So is that very similar then in, I guess, the horse world? Like you can take an embryo and put it in a reset mare.
Yep.
And then, you know, that mare doesn't really need, doesn't need to be anything fancy, but you can essentially just science.
Yep.
So I don't know. That's pretty neat. I know a couple of my friends have done like IVF personally, like as a human, and I mean that's science and craziness too. Like it's crazy.
Well, and also and I don't know, maybe this is as popular in the horse world, but sex theming. So this podcast will get shadow banned. They're gonna think we're like talking about, you know.
No, well,
but yeah.
But like no, I am not. We tried looking into breeding one of our mares, but like I just the end results is so risky. You know what I mean? Yeah, you may get a foal, but you know you could also die. And like I didn't want to go through that. But I mean, it's definitely when you have it down pat and you're good at it and you know what to do. Like I think it's fantastic, and it definitely, you know, you could have your own mare here at home, but if you want to breed to something better, I think that's a great, you know, thing. But
well, and that's what I'm teaching my son. Like, you know, everything in show is expensive. Okay. But literally, like, when you can buy an embryo, like, I'm also trying to teach him the long game in life. Like, you know, and if he goes and we buy some embryos and we put them in some cows, then he has to tend and take care of them cows and check them cows every day for 9 months before they ever calve.
Yeah.
And then another 6 months after they calve before he ever really shows them.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's helping him get, you know, hopefully pretty high quality cattle at, you know, a fraction of the cost of waiting to buy it in the fall, which there's nothing wrong with buying it in the fall from the guy that raised it, or, you know, a guy that raised embryo calves, you know.
But I will say, like, it's just crazy how when you watch a calf, or even, I mean, I've seen calves, I've seen puppies, and, you know, a couple other animals be born, but, like, you're just like, wow, like, that's not because of me, but, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to see the whole circle of life, and I think that's most important, like, when you're doing an animal project, like, you know, the whole cycle. Like,
the only problem is he's a 9-year-old boy, and
so
we're gonna watch what we say here because we will get shadow banned. But yeah, like they haven't seen any bulls breed any cows yet.
Oh, okay.
So, he's obsessed with saying wiener lately. So, yeah, we've been AI and everything and putting eggs in at our house. So we've had to take a couple to farms to get bred by the bull, but we just drop them off with the bull. So, they don't see that.
For
so
a date night. Yeah.
Date night. Adam's like, oh my God, I got a lot of editing to do on this damn podcast. Why are we doing this?
Just like snip it together. Yeah. That's funny. No, but I mean, that's a whole, you could do a whole conversation just on that stuff. But
right. So anything, get new bleachers out there. Anything else fun and exciting for the Horse and Pony Club?
We do have a pulled pork dinner coming up. That's we're selling tickets from now until the end of May. I think it's the 23rd of May. And then it'll be a drive-through, so you just give us your tickets and we'll hand you your pulled pork sandwich, some applesauce. I think we're doing baked beans. I think I know. And a cookie. So all that for $10. That's a pretty good deal. And it all goes towards, so for us like you were saying earlier in the show, we take care of all of our grounds work. We take care of all of our buildings. And then we have also pay for most of our awards that come out of our club. So all of that benefits the club, all the funds. And we do clinics with the kids. Every once in a while we'll have some people out to show them different things you can do within the equine industry. And it's really, like I said, those kids work really hard. And so if you get a chance on Friday, the Friday and Saturday before the actual fair kicks off, that's when the kids will be out there showing their projects.
What is, the, drawing a blank here, the food fundraiser, the
pulled
pork, is that drive through there at the facility?
You'll go down to past the highway department. Excuse me. And you'll go, the highway department, you pull in there and it goes to the right, and then you'll go in, you'll give us your ticket, and we'll have some kids run out your food to you. It's pretty simple.
Awesome.
We did it last year because we were trying, like I said, that was what we were doing for the roofing fundraiser, and it worked really well. We had a really good turnout, and we had them all pre-prepped, and so when they said, I want 2, we just put 2 in a box, and away we went.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any future plans out there? Goals you guys are working on? Anything you want to share?
Well, I know we have a new roof now, thanks to you guys. So that's worked out really well. It's beautiful. It's really pretty green. And hold on. I'm like, ugh. Damn it, Helen. She gave me her cold. No, you probably wasn't putting on. So we're working on our footing situation. So that is an ever going thing. So when the horses run, you want it to have really nice footing so that they don't, because they're kind of fragile sometimes. They're beastly animals, but very fragile. So you have to have good ground. And so our next thing we're going to really try to do is fix the footing and it's like something underneath it. Tiles, is that what it's called? So anyway, that's been there since it's been been a horse arena. So it's about time to get that fixed up. But other than that, we're pretty self-sufficient out there. We do have people come out and mow, and we're doing pretty good out there.
Nice. Well, I appreciate your time coming in, and just want to encourage anybody in the Rushville area to support their pulled pork sandwich fundraiser. I'll sit here and say I'll probably forget about it if I'm being friggin' real honest with you. Because sometimes I feel like a hypocrite when I say, hey, you should go do this, and then I'm thinking, heck, I'll freaking forget about it by then or be gone. But no, we're thankful that we had the opportunity to help you guys out. Honestly, that's what we're here for. That's the people that's the company that we have. Fortunately, that was our intentions when me and Emily started this. I said it from the get go. It really had nothing to do about. It was way bigger than me and Emily, And this community has supported us, and that's been huge. When small business starts, it's like you just put your neck out there and you're like, man, I hope somebody don't chop it off, So, we're thankful. And, I don't know much about it. That's why I had you come in here and chat, because I get it. A lot of girls, and not just girls, but, a lot of little girls love horses, We
have boys in our club too.
Right. So,
but I will say, like, that, not just whole roofing, but like we have so many local businesses that do support the grounds out there. If it wasn't like we sell banners that companies can, like, it's just a 3x4 banner, and that really supplies our, like, a whole year worth of, like, operation costs for that. So if it wasn't for, like, the small businesses like you guys and the other ones that have helped us, like, we wouldn't have a club. So we really appreciate that.
Absolutely. All right, we appreciate you tuning in this week's podcast. Thank you.